Glowing Star Story, The King and the Fakir. In a magnificent kingdom filled with riches, power, and endless luxuries, there lived a mighty king named Zayden. His palace was built from pure white marble, decorated with gold and precious jewels. Servants stood ready at his command, and soldiers guarded his empire day and night. To the outside world, he had everything a man could ever dream of. Yet, deep inside, King Zayden felt an emptiness that no treasure could fill. Every night, after the grand feasts ended and the music faded, the king would sit alone in his vast hall. The golden walls echoed with silence. Despite being surrounded by people all day, he felt a loneliness that grew heavier with time. He had conquered lands, defeated enemies, and built a legacy, but he had never found true peace. One day, a traveler arrived in the kingdom and spoke of a fakir who lived far beyond the city walls. The traveler said, "This man owns nothing, no house, no wealth, yet he is always smiling, always content. People go to him not for money, but for peace." The king was puzzled. How could someone with nothing be happier than a king who had everything? Driven by curiosity, King Zayden decided to see this fakir for himself. He removed his royal robes, dressed as a common man, and left the palace quietly at dawn. After a long journey, he reached a quiet area where a single tree stood in the middle of an open field. Beneath that tree sat an old fakir. His clothes were worn, his hair unkempt, and beside him lay only a clay bowl and a torn blanket. Yet his face glowed with a calmness the king had never seen before. The fakir was feeding small pieces of dry bread to birds, smiling as they gathered around him. The king approached and said, "Old man, I have heard that you are always happy. Tell me, how is it possible when you have nothing?" The fakir looked at him kindly and replied, "Who told you I have nothing? I have everything I need." The king frowned. "You have no palace, no wealth, no servants. What do you mean by everything?" The fakir gently pointed toward the sky and said, "The sky is my roof, the earth is my bed, and every breath I take is a blessing. I have peace in my heart, what more could I ask for?" The king was silent for a moment. These words touched something deep inside him. "But don't you ever feel sad?" the king asked. "Don't you wish for more comfort, more security?" The fakir smiled softly. "Desire is like fire. The more you feed it, the stronger it burns. I chose to stop feeding it. And when the fire died, I found peace." The king sat beside him, feeling an unfamiliar calm. For the first time in years, his mind was quiet. From that day on, the king began visiting the fakir regularly in disguise. He found himself looking forward to their simple conversations more than the grand gatherings in his palace. The fakir never spoke of wealth or power, only of contentment, patience, and gratitude. Slowly, the king began to question his own life. One evening, unable to hide the truth any longer, the king revealed his identity. "I am King Zayden," he said. "I rule this land. I have everything a man could desire, yet my heart is restless. Tell me, how can I find peace like you?" The fakir looked at him with deep compassion. "You say you have everything," the fakir replied gently, "but in reality, everything owns you." The king was confused. "What do you mean?" "You are a prisoner of your own wealth, your power, and your pride," the fakir explained. "You fear losing them. And that fear steals your peace every moment." The king's eyes filled with tears. For the first time, he saw the truth. All his life, he had been protecting his riches, but in doing so, he had lost himself. "What should I do?" the king asked, his voice trembling. The fakir answered, "Start giving instead of taking. Help those who have less than you. Sit with the poor, listen to their stories, feel their pain. When you serve others with sincerity, your heart will begin to heal. The king returned to his palace, but he was no longer the same man. He began to change his ways. He reduced heavy taxes on the poor, opened shelters for the needy, and personally visited villages to understand the struggles of his people. Instead of sitting on his throne all day, he spent time among ordinary citizens. At first, people were surprised. But slowly, they began to feel hope. Months passed, and the kingdom transformed. There was less suffering, more smiles, and a sense of unity among the people. And for the first time in his life, King Zayden felt a deep sense of peace growing within him. But one day, when he went to visit the Fakir again, something was wrong. The tree stood silent. The birds were gone. And the Fakir was no longer there. A villager informed him softly, "The Fakir passed away last night." The king's heart sank. He fell to his knees beneath the same tree where they had shared so many conversations. Tears streamed down his face as he held the Fakir's old blanket in his hands. In a broken voice, he whispered, "You had nothing, yet you gave me everything." From that day on, King Zayden ruled not with pride, but with humility. Not with fear, but with compassion. He never forgot the lessons of the Fakir. Though he continued to live in a palace, his heart no longer belonged to gold or power. It belonged to peace. And in that peace, he finally found the happiness he had been searching for all his life.